Good morning. My name's Jason, and I'm part one of the Highwaymen.
Well, good morning, everybody, and I'm three-quarters of the other bit, I think, because I'm not quite there. There's a little bit missing somewhere. I'm
Good man.
Steve.
Here's Steve. And today, with NASA just about, I think they've launched now. They've launched this new kind of probey thing going to the moon to start their like lunar space station. We thought we'd talk a little bit about that, but a little bit about the moon landing or the fake moon landing, whichever you believe. What are your thoughts, Steve?
Well, yes, first of all, they have just launched one, but it's unmanned. So the one that they've chucked out up there is only going to get, I think it's about 60 miles off the surface of the moon, something like that. It's going to have a little whiz around, take some pictures, and it's going to fuck right off the other way and then come back in again. So that it's going to bring them a load of data.
No, they're landing. Aren't they landing some? They're landing. They're leaving some like a little space pod down there, aren't they?
Not on this one. Not,
Aren't
not
they?
on the
Oh,
one
okay.
now.
Oh, I thought they
Yeah,
were.
yeah, not on this one. This one's just a little bit of a reconnaissance, and they're going to have a whiz around and then come back again. So yeah, there's no one on it either. This one.
So let's talk
You're
about.
dead right. The plan is to take a porter cabin up there
Yeah,
and stick it up there. That's the
with
idea, and a greenhouse maybe.
some
If the
hard hats
budget will
and
run to it.
high vis jackets as well.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
If the
sorted.
budget will run to it,
Yeah,
obviously.
probably not. I think better things to be spending the money on at the moment, I'm sure. So, Apollo 11, what's your thoughts? Or the moon landing's full stop. What's your thoughts?
Ah, right. Okay. So we have to go back again historically, and we were at the. It was a big race between Russia and America. Who was going to get somebody on the moon first? And it was a big. Was it Reagan? Who was the
Right.
president?
Well, let me go back a little bit. Let me just stop and go back, because this is where I started to question the moon landing. This is before the internet, before all of this conspiracy theories online. This was my own thoughts, and it all started for me in 1995. Because, and you probably remember this because you might remember me showing you this. Yeah, yeah. Oh, let's do it together. Hold on, ready? Go. We go back. So I'm sure I can add an effect in there somewhere. So 1995, I got my first Windows 95 computer, and it was when Windows first kind of exploded onto the scene. And the internet wasn't really a thing at that point. But what I did get is I got a CD from Time magazine. Does this ring any bells with you? Because I've never showed you this. And it was like a little encyclopedia of the world's history. And you put it in, and it was a little bit like Google. You could go through all the different years and you find out all these things. And I found John F. Kennedy in 1992 committing millions of dollars to get to the moon, to get a manned mission on the moon, shall I say, before the end of the 60s.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
And that was his pledge. And in 1969, I think it was September, October 1969.
Just at the end of the decade.
Yeah, they went to the moon. And I watched the video of him talking, and I watched the video of the moon landing and all the bits and bobs. And I looked at it and I thought, there's no freaking way that's happened. Okay, I'd never read anything about conspiracy theory. This was my own kind of thought. And the way I thought about it, so I didn't know this until today. The Russians actually had the first reach the moon first. They had an unmanned thing that they landed on the moon in 1959. So in 1959, the Russians put something on the moon. 1962, Kennedy announces they're going to man the mission on the moon. In 1969, they went to the moon. And my personal belief is that they planned to go to the moon, and at the end of it, they decided they couldn't land and retake off again. And I think that as far as everybody was concerned, the lunar mission went ahead as planned. I think the rocket went up, and I think they stayed in space for however long it was, 7 days or whatever, and then the rocket came down with them in it. But I think the whole moon landing had been recorded before they'd even gone up, with only a handful of people knowing, and then that was put out to the press. So I think most of NASA will not be aware that, even the ones that worked on it at that time, that it was faked, because I think that everything they saw on those monitors, they believe was in real time. This is my belief. Since it's all been on the internet, I've looked at all the things with the things about the lighting and the wind on the moon, and the fact that NASA's destroyed all the data for that period, destroyed. I mean, that's historical data. You wouldn't destroy it. The fact that there's allegedly 800 items on the moon that you can't see any of them with a telescope I just find that baffling. There's the wind on the flag. Did I just say that? The shadows.
Shadows. Don't forget the shadows.
And the fact that the lunar the module that they landed on just looked like it'd been knocked up in someone's garage in an afternoon. And then the part that they took off to get back into the shuttle, they then ejected and it landed back on the moon. So there's sort of nothing there. So I personally don't believe the Apollo 11 ever landed. Now, I'm not sure about subsequent missions, but what do you think?
I'm completely with you, 100% with you, for exactly the reasons you've just said. Furthermore, why haven't we been back since? You know, it's just 50 years ago, for crying out loud. Why have we never bothered to go back since then? You're absolutely right. There's the shadows, the wind on the flag, and all the other bits and pieces. And also, they're very grainy images, to be fair. But if there's zero gravity, or very, very little in the way of gravity, you have a look, when they actually take a footstep, the displacement of the sand or whatever it is that they're walking on, that doesn't move. That stays exactly where it was. So if there was next to no gravity and you stomped on it, it would send up a cloud, wouldn't it? Yeah. And it would take ages for it to settle back down again. No, there's none of that malarkey. I'm with you. I think it's complete and utter bollocks. And I think there was also one of the things I seem to remember, you know, the visors that they wear.
Yes.
Wasn't there some form of a reflection in one of the visors?
There was a lot of questionability about the shadows and where the light was coming from, although the moon's surface is very reflective. But the other interesting thing as well is that the landscape in the background doesn't change at all. And even on some of the subsequent visits, the landscape at the background is exactly identical, which I just find a little bit odd. And I think, like you say, 50 years is a long time not to go back. You know, I think, you know, we've got the space station up in the atmosphere. Why have they not put a space station on the moon before now? I mean, I think that would be something that they'd be crying out to do ages ago. Because we talk about going to Mars and stuff like that, you would think, and there's a lot of talk as well about the radiation would have destroyed the film, would have made the astronauts ill. The radiation going up and down they were saying, the radiation was took out and put in these little metal tins so that they didn't get damaged. I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I do. It's too much bullshit. It really is. No, I don't think we've ever landed there. I'm with you. I think we got close. I think we went up there and did whatever we did. And I hadn't thought about that before, but I bet you're right. Most of NASA that were there working on it in control were looking at their monitors and believing that that's what they were looking at. And they probably
that's what I think. I think the actual landing was. I think they got to the beginning of the 69 and thought, "There's no way we are going to make this happen. This is not going to land, and this is not going to come back." So what we'll do, we'll film all that beforehand. We'll go up, like I say, the rocket went up, the rocket came down. Everybody in NASA sat behind their control panels monitoring it, and it all got fed through at the right time. And pretty much, obviously, the astronauts involved will know that they didn't do it, and the odd, production crew will know they didn't do it, and obviously the higher ups in NASA will know they didn't do it, and that's what I think.
Yeah, and I am completely with you. Do you know there's two enormous First World War hangars at Daventry in Northamptonshire, and in fact it's where the R101 was built, the big hot air balloon.
Okay.
And today, one of those hangars is owned by Warner Brothers. And it's so massive, they can actually create weather systems in there.
Wow.
They film all sorts of stuff inside that one, and you know it because one's in complete disrepair and the other's absolutely immaculate. So the immaculate one is Warner Brothers. So do you know what? I'll bet you any money that's where it was all knocked together. I bet they're inside one of those big hangars. Yeah,
in Daventry.
Something in Daventry.
We'll have to do some research and find out if they came to the UK prior to going. If they did a bit of a tour, because they'd only been a few months before, and they may have gone up. So
they might have done.
I mean, the Chinese went to the moon as well. That was very recent. They put something on the moon, didn't they? Last year or a couple of years ago, probably before the pandemic. Probably some the early COVID samples, maybe. There was nothing much. There's not been much about that, has there? That's where the COVID lab is, on the moon.
You might be right there, mate. Yeah, you might well be right. Bloody hell. No, see the instructions. They put all the instructions up there for all the stuff that we need to fix down here.
I mean, there's talk of us going to Mars. I was actually watching a scientist earlier talk about going to Mars, saying that theoretically we could terraform Mars because there's water up there and but however, what he said. But what he said is, if we can terraform a planet like Mars, then why can't we just fix our own ecosystem?
Thank you very much.
That was his argument.
Thank you. Exactly. So they reckon, I don't know if you've seen the sort of the population. So I think we're about 8 billion people at the moment on the planet. It's about a week ago we turned 8 billion. Oh, okay. They're predicting that's going to rise. Well, it will peak at some point at around about 10 billion.
Right.
And whilst it's true we are living longer, we're not having babies so much now. So we had this.
We aren't. Hang on, we aren't. You've still got to think of China's not so much, but India.
No, they took this all into account. Yeah, they
have to Google it while we're talking.
Honestly. You Google while talking, and because India is due to take over from China for the biggest population on a continent, but what they now predict is by 2080, I might be wrong with that, but by 2080 it will have plateaued and it will stabilise at around about 10 billion, 9.5 to 10 billion, because we've gone from having 2 point whatever kids down to at the minute we're 2.1 kids. And when you bear in mind it takes 2 people to have a child, that's pretty much like for like, 1 for 1. Hence, we're not growing. We're living longer, but we're not increasing the population so much. So that's why they reckon it's going to plateau at about 10 billion. So that's an awful lot of people. And I grant you, there are much heavier, dense populated areas than others. Yeah, of course there is. But nevertheless, the world as a whole, you drive around. I've only got to walk for 3 minutes and I'm on a field. So, but there's still loads and loads of greenery around us. You can drive for miles and not see anything. So, we still have the capacity to feed everybody. We still have the capacity to house everybody. We can still do all this stuff. Why in the name of God are we spending all this money to go to the moon or Mars or where put a porta cabin up there or in a greenhouse or whatever it is we're going to do? Why? Let's take care of what we've got here and fix this.
I mean, to be honest with you, if we did ever get to the point of, terraforming Mars, if you like, for want of a better word, of making a livable planet, most of us wouldn't end up going. You'd only be the elite, a couple of thousand maybe. If this planet actually was dying, you and I wouldn't get to go. No. We need a few more subscribers before we get put on the list. In fact, why are we saying that? Why don't you just like and subscribe to the video as you're watching, just to give us a bit of a fighting chance?
And any plans anyone's got for a rocket, blueprints or anything like that, please send it. I've got a shed. We can knock something up between us.
I reckon we could probably knock something up better up than that initial lander. It looked like it was made out of bloody tin foil and a few Kellogg's cornflake packets.
I've just remembered something. I remember building an Airfix model. So this must have been literally just after. It would have been late 69 or 1970. So that would have put me at 7 years old. So it's about on the money. And I remember making a freaking Airfix model of that thing. And it was like, I bet the Airfix model was better made than the real one by a 7-year-old kid.
Could you land and relaunch it? That's what I want to know. With all the
No, I never know what happened to that. Actually, I never know. That's 50 years ago. I've got absolutely no idea what happened to that. But I used to love making Airfix models, and I remember I'd forgotten about it, completely forgotten about it. It was like this really weird shaped freaking hexagonal thing with little legs that poked out of it. Very weird.
So we're in agreement that we didn't go to the moon. We'd like to know your comments, please. I'm really interested to know what our subscribers, our viewers think. Did we go to the moon? Did we not go to the moon? Tell us your opinions. And any more to add, Stephen?
No, I think we're about there on that, mate, quite frankly.
Good man.
Yes, anybody that's, obviously if Richard Branson subscribes to us, why wouldn't he, or Elon Musk, then don't forget 2 spaces, please. There's lots of things we are good at, Jay, isn't there, mate?
We talking shit.
We can hold our own. Yeah, entertainment. We can be there to entertain.
We can be the entertainment. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.
Bless you all. Have a great one. Cheers, everybody.